name is Lucretia Austin. Now, just recently, I noticed, or I was reading about a woman who, she was getting ready to bury her father. And whenever she got ready, she was doing all the preceding paperwork and whatnot, she realized that her husband was actually her father. So she had been married to her father for all that time, not even knowing until he died. And I can't say for sure whether or not this woman was adopted, but what I can say is if the right to know policy was put into effect, we could try to eliminate this type of scenario occurring again. Which brings me to my topic. Today I'll be discussing the adoption right to know policy. This topic is particularly relevant to me, or I'm very knowledgeable about the subject myself because I am adopted. I was adopted at 2 weeks old, so I know kind of what an adoptee, if you will, would go through. Today my intent is to persuade you all that every adoptee has the right to know who their biological parents are. There are 3 main points I will be discussing. First, I will tell you why there is a need for the right to know policy. Secondly, I'll discuss what can take place to fix the flaws with the adoptee laws as they stand. Lastly, I will discuss the impact the right to know policy has. Adoptees have the right to know who their parents are. I'll begin by speaking about what the right to know policy is. First I'll begin by talking about what the need for the right to know policy is. Of course, you all know that adoption is an alternative for parents who don't want to have children for whatever reason. There are numerous reasons why people choose to have adoption or do adoption. Some reasons could be unplanned pregnancies, teenage pregnancy, drug use, rape, anything. And any of these things can contribute to parents not wanting to raise children. It could just be they just don't want children. There's actually 70% of teens who get pregnant while in high school, they actually end up dropping out. So if more teenagers who get pregnant, if they were to consider doing adoption, the statistics of students dropping out of school could also decrease. Next, I'll be talking about what closed adoption is. So, of course, we just talked about why people do adoption. I'm going to be talking about the 2 different kinds of adoptions, which are closed adoption and open adoption. Closed adoption is basically when parents choose to just, do the adoption. The records are sealed. No one knows nothing about nothing. The child doesn't know. The adopting parent doesn't know anything about the biological parents. And that's really what a closed adoption is. Usually, closed adoptions, the adoptees have the right to know adoptees have information. They can obtain information about their biological parents. They won't know names or anything like that. They'll just know medical records. And that's something that they can do. They can choose to petition the courts for. But that's a lengthy process that they have to go through. It's something that I feel like is very unnecessary for a child to be able to obtain their medical information. Now, the open adoption is basically where the biological parents, they get to choose who is going to be adopting their children. And sometimes they do interview processes. They select who their, child is going to be raised by. And they can also draw up paperwork to be able to see the child throughout the child's life. And that's really what an open adoption is. Both of these, closed and open adoption, they both have flaws. One main flaw that I researched primarily about is these adoptee children, they get that urge to know who their parents are. And that can definitely cause some serious trauma for a child. According to the Bear and Jay Out of the Adoption Closet, off the books rack, that's basically where I got that information about closed and open adoption. Next, I will be discussing the most appealing way to fix the flaws with adoption. Alright, so of course I've been advocating for this right to know policy. Basically, what the right to know policy is, according to, according to the Bear J article that I found online, the right to know policy is basically a policy that it gives the adoptees, they know who their biological parents are. They can go online and they can find out who their biological parents are. But the thing with it is, it's a right to information, not a right to relationship. They can know who their parents are, but they can't contact them. And the reason, or the thing that would keep them from contacting them is a no contact notice. If you go outside the realms of what the right to know policy contribute or keeps you limited within, if you go outside that and you actually try to seek a relationship or you contact your adopted or your biological parents, even after they put the no contact notice on, you can be fined $50,000. So that's basically what keeps this act so within those boundaries. Next, I'll be discussing what this right to know policy would fix. Basically, as I was speaking about earlier, a lot of adoptees, they go through that stigma of not knowing who their biological parents are. If this policy is to be called into action, basically, they wouldn't have to worry about that. They would know who their biological parents are. Maybe they wouldn't have a relationship with them, but they would at least know. They can, with Facebook being out there, all these websites we have, they could have a general idea about who their parents are. Not necessarily contacting them, but at least knowing. Another thing that it could fix is the medical problems. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to the hospital and they asked me information about my biological parents, and I have absolutely no idea. I can't tell them anything. They're like, have you ever had a history of high blood pressure? I don't know. Like, I just don't know because I don't know that medical history of my biological parents. So those are some of the things that could actually be corrected or helped if this policy was to be called into action. Now, how do we get this policy to be enforced? Right now, they are still in the proposing state in this policy. But one thing that we can do is, as a collective body, come together and get this policy well known. Right now, we have a presidential debate going on, and this isn't even one of the subjects that are being discussed. If we as a collective body come together and we are letting people be more aware of the problem that these closed and open adoptions create, maybe this could be something that's actually addressed as opposed to just shuffled in a closet. No one deserves to not know who their parents are if it can be helped. The way the adoption policies are now create opportunity for situations such as the woman I mentioned earlier to arise. The right to know policy is a great solution.